The restaurant glowed with warm Christmas lights, but Emily Parker felt colder than she ever had in her life. She sat completely still at the neatly set table, her green satin dress shimmering faintly under the golden bulbs, while the sounds of laughter and clinking silverware swirled around her like echoes from a world she wasn't allowed to enter. Her mascara had smudged slightly from the tear she desperately wiped away the moment her date walked off with a muttered, "Sorry, you're just not what I'm looking for." He didn't stay long enough to finish his glass of water. He didn't stay long enough to see her heart crack behind her polite smile. He didn't stay long enough to notice the little girl in a red dress watching her from across the room with curious, innocent eyes. And he definitely didn't stay long enough to see how this moment, this painful, humiliating rejection, would lead Emily into a chapter she never expected. If this story already has your heart tightening even a little, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more emotional stories about kindness, hope, and second chances. Your support truly keeps these stories alive. Emily had always dreaded December, and this Christmas Eve dinner only confirmed why. She had been persuaded into the blind date by her coworker, who swore the man was genuine, sweet, and looking for something real. But apparently, real didn't include someone like her, someone who had been through heartbreak, someone who carried quiet loneliness around like a shadow, someone whose smile didn't always reach her eyes anymore. As the music played and couples clinked their glasses, Emily felt more out of place than ever. She stared at the empty seat across from her, the untouched dessert menu, the water glass already sweating against her palm, and she wondered for the 100th time why love seemed to avoid her like she carried some invisible warning sign. She tried to compose herself, to smooth back her hair and pretend she was fine, but her chest felt tight. The restaurant was beautiful, garlands wrapped around pillars, wreaths decorated with red and golden ornaments hung on the walls, and a crackling fireplace painted the room in a soft amber glow. But none of it reached her. The beauty around her only highlighted the hollow ache in her heart, the deep yearning for connection she didn't know how to fill. She told herself she'd stay a few more minutes so she didn't look like she was fleeing. She didn't want pity from the waitstaff or curious stares from nearby tables. But she wasn't prepared for the tiny footsteps that approached her table, nor the little girl who climbed halfway onto the chair across from her, clutching a knitted teddy bear by one arm. She wore a velvet red Christmas dress with white fur trim and had wispy blonde hair tied into a small ponytail. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she leaned forward with pure confidence, as if she already knew Emily and had always meant to sit with her. The little girl's father sat at a table nearby, chatting with a couple who seemed to be friends or family. He didn't notice his daughter slipping away. And yet, somehow, the child seemed drawn directly to Emily, as if sensing something no adult had bothered to see. Emily blinked, caught completely off guard. The little girl didn't hesitate for a second. She leaned close, bright-faced and delighted, and looked straight at Emily's tear-stained cheeks. It was then, with surprising seriousness for someone so young, that she reached out with her tiny hand as if offering comfort. And Emily felt something in her chest soften just a little, the way ice begins to melt under unexpected warmth. The girl didn't speak, but she smiled at her, an innocent, open-hearted smile that held no judgment, no expectations. Just sincerity. And it was in that moment Emily felt noticed for the first time that evening. Not for her dress or her appearance or her lack of a date, but for her. Her pain. Her longing. Her quiet sadness. Moments later, the girl's father finally noticed she was gone and hurried over, apologizing with flustered concern. Emily assured him it was fine, and he gently lifted the child, preparing to take her back to their table. But something happened Emily wasn't prepared for. The little girl reached her arms back toward her, insisting softly to be returned, refusing to look away from Emily's face. It was strange, tender, almost magical. The father seemed surprised, even confused, but he let the child lean forward again, allowing her to rest her tiny hand on Emily's shoulder as if she had known her forever. Emily felt the warmth of that tiny touch like a balm against a wound she didn't realize was still bleeding. The father hesitated, watching the two of them with widening eyes, a mixture of curiosity and something deeper settling across his expression. Emily didn't know it yet, but this was the first fragile thread of something that would soon change the course of her life. As the father brought the little girl back to their table, Emily tried to gather herself and leave. But somehow her legs didn't want to move. The child kept glancing back at her between bites of her meal, waving her teddy bear like an introduction of friendship. Emily found herself smiling for the first time that night, a soft curve of the lips she couldn't control. It felt foreign and familiar all at once. Eventually, fate stepped in again. When the father stood to take his daughter to the restroom, the girl tugged him toward Emily's table instead. She leaned close with the same radiant energy as before, her voice soft but full of meaning as she looked at Emily with hopeful eyes. And that's when she asked it. "Can you be my new mom?" The restaurant didn't fall silent, but it felt like it did. Emily froze, her breath catching in her throat so suddenly she felt dizzy. The father looked stunned, immediately whispering something to the child, trying to correct her, but the little girl shook her head insistently, pointing at Emily with the certainty only a child's heart could hold. Emily didn't know what to say. She couldn't speak. Tears stung her eyes again, but not from rejection this time. From something else, something indescribably tender and piercing. She had never been anyone's anything. Never the chosen one. Never the one someone asked for. The father apologized again, more softly this time, his embarrassment painted with something deeper, something like concern, something like understanding. He explained that his daughter, Lily, had lost her mother 2 years earlier. This was their first Christmas trying to celebrate outside their home. It was supposed to be a step forward. But Lily, at such a young age, was still trying to understand loss, still trying to fill a void too big for her tiny hands. Emily listened, her heart clenching for reasons far bigger than her own loneliness. When Lily reached for her again, Emily gently took her hand, offering a warmth she didn't even know she had to give. From there, a quiet bond began to form. The father, Michael, invited Emily to join them for dinner, mostly because Lily refused to eat unless she sat at their table. It was awkward at first, but the awkwardness slowly melted as they talked. Emily found herself smiling at the little girl's excitement over Christmas decorations, at her pure joy when the waiter brought dessert, at her innocent attempts to make Emily laugh. Michael watched the two of them interact with a kind of stunned fascination, as if witnessing something fragile but profoundly important. He explained bits of their life, how Lily adored stories, how she loved baking cookies, how she had asked for a Christmas wish involving a mom she missed deeply. Emily didn't know what to do with the weight of that admission, but she listened, feeling her heart open wider with every moment. By the time dinner ended, Emily felt like she had stepped into someone else's life, one filled with warmth she hadn't expected, one where she wasn't invisible. She walked to her car with a strange heaviness, not from sadness, but from a longing she didn't quite understand. Before she could leave, Michael approached her, carrying Lily who had fallen asleep on his shoulder, her small hand clutching the teddy bear tightly. He thanked Emily for being kind, for being gentle, for giving his daughter something he hadn't been able to give her in a long time, a sense of comfort. He handed Emily a small card with his number on it, not out of flirtation or obligation, but out of sincerity. He said she didn't owe them anything, but if she ever wanted to visit, or if she felt up for company, they would be grateful. Emily drove home with her heart pounding, replaying the little girl's question again and again. It echoed in her chest, stirring up emotions she didn't realize she had buried. Over the next few weeks, she found herself thinking about them constantly. She didn't call immediately, she wasn't sure she should. She didn't want to intrude. She didn't want to misinterpret a moment of emotional vulnerability. But fate wasn't finished yet. A week later, Michael texted her. Lily had drawn a picture. One of herself, holding hands with Emily. Emily's heart broke open in the best way. She began visiting them, first for short coffee outings, then helping with Christmas crafts, then reading bedtime stories. She became part of their routine slowly, naturally.